Hi everybody, it's Miss Jenichen. In today's video, we are going to be practicing letter formation in lowercase letters. And we are going to do it a special way where we are going to say the verbal path or the direction of the letter out loud. So at home or wherever you're watching this video, hopefully in a place that you can be talking out loud, so maybe not when you're sitting on a bus or something like that, but talk the direction of the letter out loud with me. The second most important thing that you should do besides saying the direction of the letter is doing the action with me. We're gonna do it a couple of times. The first couple of times, we're just gonna say it, and then we're gonna use our finger or our arm in the air. And then if you have some kind of writing utensil like a marker and a paper or pencil or a whiteboard and a dry erase marker, you can practice writing it with me after. So, three most important things is to say the letter and the direction. Second is to do the actions with me. And third is to have something to practice writing it after. In between each letter, you can pause and practice writing it on your own so you can go a little bit slower. Are you ready to get started? Awesome. What I use for all those adults and teachers, parents watching out there is for guided reading and for letter formation, we use Jan Richardson's Verbal Pathways. And in the description below, you can find a PDF of a very similar verbal pathways that we use when we're teaching. All right, let's get started. The first section is going to be on starting with a loop. Okay, here we go. All right, everybody, before we get started, I want to remind you of a couple important things. Number one, every time that you produce the letter, every time you form a letter, whether it's in the air or whether it's on a carpet or on a piece of paper or a whiteboard, you should say the verbal pathway. You should say the directions out loud with me. Also, I want you to really try your best to do one continuous stroke. And it's especially important when you're on your whiteboard or your paper not to keep picking your pen or marker up and down. Try to keep it where it is, with the exception of K, X, and Y, which you kind of have to pick it up. And I know it seems very tempting to want to go fast, but speed is not the most important thing. The most important thing is to memorize the correct formation so that you're able to write quicker with words and sentences later. Okay? We're going to start with letters that start with a loop. And the first letter we're going to practice is C, the letter C. So imagine what the letter C looks like. Good. Now we're going to do it with our finger first. Your pointer finger is important, okay? Keep it strong, and we're gonna go around like a C. And make sure you're going the right direction as me looking on your screen. Around like a C. One more time, around like a C. Now, if you have some kind of writing tool, you can practice using it. Around like a C. And remember, we're doing lowercase. So if you're using paper like this, it should be on the bottom part of it, the very underneath the dotted line. So we're not making an uppercase C. We're making a lowercase c. Okay? All right, around like a C. If you're practicing it on a paper or a whiteboard, try to do a couple like this and say them as you go, okay? Around like a C, around like a C, around like a C, around like a C. Just like this. It's very important that you know that one because all of these next letters start with around like a C. So get used to saying it, okay? All right, the next letter we're gonna practice is O. O like this. And when we make a lowercase o, we say around like a C, close. Around like a C, close. O. Okay? So every time we make it, we're gonna say around like a C, close. O. around like a C, close, O. Around like a C, close, O. And every time you write it, you're gonna do the same thing. Around like a C, close, O. Around like a C, close, O. All right, the next letter that starts this way is the letter A. The lowercase letter A goes like this. Around like a C, close, down, A. Around like a C, close, down, C, A. Around like a C, close, down, A. And if you're making it on a whiteboard, it's gonna look like this. Around like a C, close, down. For A, make sure when you're making the letter A that you're not accidentally making the letter D by going too high. Around like a C, close, down. It's not all the way up here because that is the letter D, right? Around like a C, close, down, A. The next letter that we learn is D, and that starts around like a C, up, down. And the reason why I said up super excitedly is because you want to make sure that the line goes all the way up to the top, like this. Just like I said before, it's not a letter A. You want to make sure this stick goes all the way up to the top, like this. So when we do the letter D, we go like this. Around like a C, up, down. Around like a C, up, down, D. Around like a C, up, down, D. So go ahead and do it with me with a writing tool. Around like a C, up, down, D. Around like a C, up, down, D. I hope you're saying it with me. Around like a C, up, down, D. Okay, the next letter is G. G. Okay, so imagine what a G looks like. You should probably imagine something like this. G. Okay, and so to form the letter G, I liked the Jan Richardson letter formation says to say around like a C, down, hook left. But in my mind, it makes more sense to say around like an O, down, hook left. So you can choose whichever way makes more sense to you. I'm going to say around like an O, down, hook left. Around like an O, down, hook left. Okay, and that's to make the letter G. So in the air a couple of times and saying it. Now we're gonna practice writing it. Around like an O, down, hook left. Around like an O, down, hook left. Around like an O, down, hook left. You can also say, like it says in the Jan Richardson verbal pathways, around like a C, down, close, to the left, sorry. Around like a C, down, to the left. Okay? Either way is fine, and that's for the lowercase letter G. The next one is a Q. And for the lowercase letter Q, this one you see a couple of different ways. And the way that I'd like to do it is very similar to G, and it's around like an O, down, hook right. Around like an O, down, hook right. I've heard also some people say around like an O, down, hook away, because when you see the letter Q, it's hooking away from the rest of the letter. With a G, it hooks with the letter, but with a letter Q, it kind of hooks away. So I've heard that one before. So when we're practicing it, and go ahead and practice it in the air first with your finger, around like an O, down, hook right. Around like an O, down, hook right. And then practice it on your paper. Around like an O, down, hook right. Around like an O, down, hook right. Okay, and the last one that we're gonna learn is S. This one's my personal favorite, and it goes like this: around like a snake. Because when we write the letter snake, it starts with the letter S in snake, right here. So when we make this letter S, we go around like a snake. Go ahead and practice it in the air first with your finger. Around like a snake. Around like a snake. Around like a snake. And you might also notice that when we make the letter C, like this, around like a C, we go this way. We go to the left. From there, we go around like a C. And when we make the letter S around like a snake, look at the way that I go. Watch my marker. Around like an S. I go the same way. We're starting with that loop. Around like an S, we go left. All right? So practice it in the air, around like a snake, and practice it on your whiteboard, okay? And when we see it on the whiteboard, it should be below, or on any lined paper, it should look like this underneath. Around like a snake, around like a snake, around like a snake. All right? Those are all of the letters that start with a loop. All right, now that we got the hang of it, we're gonna move a little bit quicker for the next ones because the rest of them start a little bit more simply. This next section is letter formation with letters that start with a stick. A stick, like a straight line, okay? So with these letters, we are going to start at the top and move our way down, okay? Anytime we have a letter that starts with a stick, we always go from the top to the bottom, okay? We never make letters go from the bottom to the top, okay? So whenever we're making these starting with a stick letters, you wanna make sure we always start at the top. So first we're gonna practice the letter L. So the letter L, you start at the top and down. Start at the top and down, L. Okay, so can you say that with me and do it with your finger in the air? Start at the top, down, L. Start at the top, down, L. When we do it on a piece of paper, if you have lines, this lowercase letter starts at the top, just like we say in our verbal pathways. Start at the top, down, L. Start at the top, down, L. Start at the top, down, L. The next letter we're gonna practice is I, lowercase I, like this. And when we practice it in the air with our voices, we say down, dot, I, down, dot, I, down, dot, I. And when we write it, we go like this. Down, dot, I. Down, dot, I. Down, dot, I. For the next letter, it is T, lowercase letter T, like this. Now remember, with lowercase letter T, it's not uppercase, so the line that we cross goes in the middle. It goes on that dotted line if you see this, okay? So for this one, we go down and cross, down, cross. One more time, down, cross. When you're doing it on your paper, you should see down, cross, T, down, cross, T, down, cross, T, down, cross, T. For the next letter that starts with a stick is the letter J. Down, hook, left, dot. So it kind of is like the G that hooks left, but there's a dot at the top like a lowercase I. So we're gonna go down hook left, dot, down hook left, dot. And when we see it on here, down hook left, dot, down hook left, dot, down hook left, dot, J, down hook left, dot, J, down hook left, dot, J. All right, couple more. Oh, this is the letter B, where the letter D starts with a loop around like a C, up and down for D. The letter B starts with a stick. So for B, we say down and around. I'm sorry, for B, pardon me. For B, we would say down and around. And it would look like this. Down and around. If it helps you, you could also say down and around like a C, because we go back around like this. But make sure you say the letter B afterward. Down and around, B. Down and around, B. Down and... The next letter we're gonna practice is the letter P. And for the letter P, we say this. Down, up, and around. Down, up, and around, P. Down, up, and around, P. And when we write it, we do the same thing. Down, up, and around, P. And it should look like this, hanging below the line. Down and around, P. Down and around, P. Down and around, P. And the last letter that's in this starting with a stick category is K. And when we make the letter K, it might be helpful for you to say down, in, out. Can you do it with me? Down, in, out. This is one of those cases that you're gonna need to take your marker or your pencil off of what you're writing on in order to go back in toward the line. So you start with that line down, and then you make two new lines, in, out. Down, in, out, K. Down, in, out, K. And when we write it, it should look like this. Down, in, out, K. Down, in, out, K. Down, in, out, K. All right, next for our handwriting practice and letter formation practice, we are going to do letters that start with a stick and a hump, okay? And I like to imagine with these letters that they are like the hump of a camel, okay? So we're gonna start with the letter R. Lowercase letter R, oopsies, looks like this. And when we say the letter R, we say down, up, over. Down, up, over. Down, up, over. Okay? So when you're practicing it yourself, you're gonna say it and write it at the same time. Down, up, over. Down, up, over. Down, up, over. Down, up, over. R. Okay? All right, next we have the letter N, and then we're gonna do the letter M. And both of them are very similar, but they're different in a very important way. The letter N only has one hump, so we say down, hump. Okay? Can you say it with me? Down, hump. Make sure you got that strong finger in the air. Down, hump. N. Down, hump, N. Down, hump, N. And then when you practice writing the letter N, you should be doing the same thing. Down, hump, N. Down, hump, N. Just like this. Very similar to the letter N is M. And with the letter M, I think of a two-humped camel. So it's gonna go down, hump, hump, M. Down, hump, hump, M. Now let's practice writing it. Down, hump, hump, M. Right? Down, hump, hump, M. Down, hump, hump, M. Now the last one in this section is the letter H, because the lowercase letter H also has a little hump, but it's also got a stick. So we say down, hump. And although it's very similar to the letter N, where we also say down, hump, N, I like to make sure that we make a big deal about that we're going way down for the letter H. So down, hump, instead of just down, hump, because it's a much longer way down from the top than this one. So for the letter H, we're gonna say down, hump, H. Down, hump, H. Down, hump, H. Now you go ahead and practice writing it. Down, hump, H. Down, hump, H. Down, hump, H. To make letters that start with a slant, which means we go in a diagonal line, we always start at the top. Just like when we're doing our stick letters, starting at the top, it's the same thing for the ones with the slant. So even though we're not going straight down, we are still starting at the top and going at a slant. Can you do that with me with your arms? Slant, okay? So the first one is the letter V. And to make the letter V, we go down, up. But remember with V, it's at a slant. So we're gonna go down, up, V. Down, up, V. And when we write it, we do the same thing. Down, up, V. Down, up, V. For W, which looks very similar to V, see if this is a V, this is the letter W. Looks very similar, doesn't it? For that one, the way we say W is down, up, just like the letter V, but twice. Down, up, W. Down, up, W. Let's practice writing it. Down, up, W. Down, up, W. Now, if you are a teacher and you are looking at me like, ooh, Miss Jenichen, it needs to be curved like this, you can still have your children do it in the curved way, but make sure you just use the same verbal pathways. Down, up, down, up. Down, up, down, up. It works both ways. For the next slanted one is the letter X. And this is a pretty easy one because I always think of X marks the spot, okay? So when we make the letter X, it looks just like an X marks the spot. We start at the top and we go down, cross. Can you do that with me? Down, cross, X. Down, cross, X. And also, if you get fun with it, you can say X marks the spot. X marks the spot. So for the verbal pathways, make sure you're saying down, cross, X. Down, cross, X. Down, cross, X. All right? Last one is the letter Y. And for Y, we say down, down. Down, down. Like this. Ready? Down, down. For lowercase letter Y. Okay? So you might go like this. Down, down. If it makes you remember to go all the way down to the bottom instead of making a V. Make sure you make that Y go all the way down to the bottom with the tail. You might say down, down. You might say it a little extra excited. The last couple of letters have a very unique formation. Can you say unique? Which means different. And the first one I wanted to show you is the letter E. Lowercase letter E. Something like this. I've seen teachers do it this way where they put it on the dotted line. I find that that's really helpful for kids who are learning letter formation for the first time to practice using that. And then as they get older, I've seen other teachers more like second grade who encourage the E underneath it more. It's a little bit of a smaller space, so when I'm teaching it first, if I notice that my students have problems with letter formation with the letter E, I have them start on the dotted line. And then as we go through the year, I start to encourage them to write it below to make it an official lowercase letter. So for the letter E, the directions on the verbal pathways says across and around. Across and around, E. But I thought of one, I actually didn't think of one, but when I was teaching last year, I had another teacher and she was saying it in a different way and I really loved it. And so with my class, I say out the garage and around the corner. Okay, so you imagine that you're a car. I'll make it bigger so you can see for this one. And you go like this, out the garage and around the corner. Out the garage and around the corner, E. Out the garage and around the corner, E. So first, you're gonna practice it in the air. Out the garage and around the corner, E. Out the garage and around the corner, E. And then you're gonna practice on your paper. Out the garage and around the corner, E. Out the garage and around the corner, E. Out the garage and around the corner, E. The next unique letter is F. And that one goes like this. Around, down, cross. F. Around, down, cross. F. And when we make it on our paper, we go like this. Around, down, cross. So it's kind of like you're using that curve from the letter J, but then you're also putting that line in the middle like the lowercase letter T, okay? So it goes around, down, cross. Around, down, cross. Around, down, cross, F. All right? The last ones are U and Z. And for the letter U, we say down, up. Down, up. And for those who teach with this, this line at the end, instead of just down, up, like this, you can say down, up, down. Down, up, down, U. Okay, so you can either just say down, up, or if you're encouraging this kind of writing, you can say down, up, down. Okay, so for me, I encourage my students to do it this way. So I'm gonna say down, up, down, U. Down, up, down, U. Down, up, down, U. For the last one, we have the letter Z. And for Z, we go like this. Across, down, across. Across, down, across, Z. Across, down, across, Z. And on paper, it looks like this. Across, down, across, Z. With lowercase z, make sure you're remembering to stay below the dotted line. Let's do it a couple more times. Say it out loud with me. Across, down, across, Z. Across, down, across, Z. Across, down, across, Z. I hope that this video on letter formation has helped you gain a little bit more of a knowledge about how we should be forming our letters. And if there are some letters that you need a little extra practice with, you can always rewatch the video and pause it on those to practice and make sure that you're getting the right direction. Okay? Happy learning, everybody!